welcome back to ATL Day Ones. I'm Tenitra. That is Jarvis, and we appreciate you guys for pulling up on the show on a beautiful Friday in the A. We appreciate you guys for also downloading this podcast wherever you get your podcast and always giving us 5-star reviews because that's what you do, and we appreciate you each and every time you do it. Also appreciate you for stopping by on YouTube and subscribing to Locked On Sports Atlanta because you guys are the reason that we're almost at 3,000 subscribers. So appreciate it. Keep it
Thank
coming
you.
and tell everybody else about it. And just like you guys pull up on our show each and every day, Jarvis pulled up to Flowery Branch today, returned to training camp. Can't wait to get out there with him on Saturday to see what's cooking in Flowery Branch. But
Yeah.
Jarvis, when you stopped by today, what was it that you observed? What did you have your eye on? What were your takeaways?
You know what? It was several things.
Mhm.
I got a chance to see the one on ones with the offensive and defensive alignment. Like
Yeah.
that like that's where my heart feels. I don't care about all that other stuff. The little dudes, Drake London, all that Kyle Pitts, yeah, those are cool and everything. But it's all about the big boys up front and how
Yes.
they get
Yeah.
down. And I think that some of the things that kind of really stood out to me was Caleb McGarry. Caleb
Mhm.
McGarry was looking solid in one
Yeah.
on ones, and I think that that's what you're looking for when we talking about coming into the season about hey Jermaine Fetty coming from your neck. Like I talked to
Yeah.
him myself, like hey this dude is coming in to try to take somebody's spot, and I thought that Jermaine Fetty look he
Mhm.
showed well, and he was making sure he was getting in his sets, and then
Yeah.
when the guy tried to bull rush me, kind of sat down. I'm like, all right, you ain't going nowhere. Once I got my hands on you, you're good. Don't even worry about going
Mhm.
anywhere else. And I think that
Mhm.
that's what you look for when
Yes.
in those right tackles when guys trying to come with those power moves off the edge. So though a couple of offensive linemen stood out,
Mhm.
and also Felipe Franks. Every time I
Yeah.
turn around, he's catching the ball, and beating somebody in one on ones. I'm just like,
Mhm.
wow, okay. It lets you know that this guy's an athlete. And I even talked to
Yes.
Kyle Pitts after practice, and I asked him about Felipe Franks. He was like, hey, he said, me and Felipe and I, we talk every day. And
Mhm.
that's how we kind of do. We critique each other. Even
Yeah.
if it's something that's very small, he said we don't take
Mhm.
it personal, but we fine and tuning everybody. And I was like, iron sharpen iron, huh? He was like, yeah, man, iron sharpen iron. So yeah, really cool to be out there today, and a lot of good stuff going on out with the Atlanta Falcons.
Awesome, awesome. And we are just a week away from the kickoff of preseason where we will really get to see what these guys are working with when they take on Detroit, the Detroit Lions at Detroit next Friday. So, we're still doing a little look ahead to the regular season. We know we're about a month or so away from that, but now we're starting to see more out of these players, at least going into or wrapping up the second week of training camp. So, I want to ask you, and you mentioned Felipe Franks, so he might be your answer to this question, but who's more? I'm going to give you a couple of rapid fire questions really quickly, but you know what? Tell you what, before I do that, let me put these rapid fire questions on pause and let you talk about one of your favorite things that you probably needed to get you going to Flowery Branch this morning, and that is coffee AM.
Well, let me tell you, I get my morning started off every morning with a cup of coffee AM. Coffee
Yeah.
never tasted so good. It is an Atlanta-based small batch coffee roaster, the best small batch coffee roaster in the entire country. What are you doing drinking anything else? Like, join the club. We're the
Yeah.
cool kids. Like, we drink coffee AM. You should drink coffee AM too. Go to coffeeam.com/locked on. That is the page that you need to go to because guess what? I'm gonna tell you about it in just a second. But listen to this. I'm gonna tell you just how good coffee AM is. Like I'm talking about roasted current crop specialty grade coffee. Like from
Mhm.
all over the country, like
Yes.
from Kenya, it's just all these different variations of coffee. Even if you don't
Mhm.
like coffee, they got teas as well. Tea will
Yeah.
tell you. Tea will tell you about the tea. Like
Yes.
that makes so much sense, right? You understand what I'm talking about. So yes. So here's what we're gonna do. Go to
Uh-huh.
coffeeam.com/locked on, drop the code locked on, and you're gonna get 15% off of all coffees, teas, and
Love
gift
it.
sets on your first purchase. So yeah, I'm gonna say it again. Go to coffeeam.com/locked on, drop in the coupon code box locked on, and you get 15% off. So go right now. Stop waiting. Stop playing around.
Yes, indeed. And Coffee AM, as you can see, gets you revved up. And you know who else might need to be revved up? The guy that ends up leading this team in receiving yards at the end of the regular season. Now, you just talked about Felipe Franks. You just talked about the competition and the good competition between him and Kyle Pitts and how they drive to get each other going, right? We saw
Hmm.
what Kyle Pitts did last year. You're also hearing people talk about Drake London. Who do you think might actually walk away leading this team in receiving yards at the end of the season?
It has to be Kyle Pitts for me because
Yeah.
when you think about this guy, now we're talking about a second year guy talking about
Mhm.
helping out a rookie.
Yes.
Now I know for the most part that normally happens, but when you see a guy who is on a certain level comes
Mhm.
coming back into training camp and he's starting to look a little bit better than what he did last year,
Right.
and he
Which was
did some
great.
really good things last year. Now, granted, everybody talk. He knows that he only scored one touchdown this year. So you've seen
Mhm.
the progressions, right? You've seen him working on his route running, understanding what it is to be double covered because he's
Mhm.
going to still
Yes.
see that. He's not going to see
Oh,
it as much as he
yeah.
did last year, but he's definitely
Mhm.
going to see some this year. So I think that Kyle Pitts is hands down my pick. I think I wouldn't be surprised if he leads the team in receiving yards and touchdowns as well
Yeah.
because I think Drake London's going to be a little bit more of an adjustment period. I know that
Mhm.
may sound crazy, but given the reports of him, and he's been
Mhm.
looking. I got my eyes on him. He's been
Yeah.
looking fine. He's been doing his
Mhm.
thing, but I think it's still going to be an adjustment period. When you talk about rookie wide receivers, those guys, not all of those guys. I know it may sound crazy
Mhm.
now with Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase coming in
Yeah.
and ripping the league up, but
Right.
that just doesn't happen that
No.
often. so, so I
And a
think
tight
that
end doing it? Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So it's just I'm hold off on Drake London, let him
Mhm.
get
Mhm.
adjusted to the NFL, and
Yeah.
let Kyle Pitts eat because I think he's primed and ready. Whoever's at quarterback.
Yeah, and with all everything that has happened in the offseason, just in terms of Julio Jones moving on, and then of course Calvin Ridley and his situation, first with being out because of some mental challenges, and then
Issues,
being
yep.
out
Hmm.
this not coming back at all this season. You
Right.
really do. I still think it's good for the Falcons that they have such an embarrassment of riches in that we're actually having this discussion. And it doesn't have to be just one. There's a possibility that somebody else could be leading this team in receiving yards. That's exciting for to me. That should be exciting for the Falcons in terms of what they can get out of their passing game. Now let's switch gears, and this has been an interesting one as well. And you and I talked, we alluded to it yesterday because of course we were talking about the Hall of Fame game and whether or not we are going to see the big stars. And we knew Trevor Lawrence and Travis Etienne were not going to play,
Right.
but we also knew that there was a possibility maybe that we'd see Foye Oluokun, and we talked about the fact that, hey, that was a guy that the Falcons lost, meaning they lost their chief and lead tackler for last season. So, that being said, who is that guy who you believe will step up this season and possibly be the team's leading tackler?
Wow. I would probably have to say Rashawn Evans, right? Because when you think about I thought about Michael Walker, but
Yeah.
I think that that'll be my sneaky sleeper homer
Hmm.
pick.
Yes.
All three of those things, not just one, all three of those sneaky sleeper homer pick. Yeah, but
Yeah.
I think I have to go with Sean Evans because he's been in the defense before and
Hmm.
he understands what DMPs wants
Yeah.
from a middle linebacker standpoint. And I think that when you talking about so many young guys on a squad,
Hmm.
and that veteran presence means something, and I think that familiarity with the defense means something, and
Agreed.
capability as well. Rashawn
Hmm.
Evans is not a slouch, like he's not a
Right.
bum. He's not an undrafted guy trying to prove himself. He's a guy, high draft pick. And
Hmm.
he's a guy who's done it before in the NFL, and he's getting
Yes.
another chance with a defense coordinator that he's played with before. So I would definitely have to go with Rashawn Evans on that one.
Yeah, I can see that as well. And we don't know how many reps, how many opportunities Michael Walker is going to get because
Right.
John Jones and his situation is still kind of up in the air. We don't know if
Yeah.
he'll be used, how he'll be used, et cetera. And that could dictate a lot of the opportunity for Michael Walker to be in situations where he can actually have that type of impact. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see. We'll bring you guys more rapid fire next week, just ahead of that Lions game. But when we come back with For the Culture, we'll talk about somebody who got her flowers when she deserved them, and we'll talk about somebody else who doesn't deserve anything close to flowers. We'll do that. We'll talk about it on the other side.